Welcome to The Explainer. So let's just dive right into this, shall we? Today, we're taking a look right under the hood of visual storytelling. We are deconstructing a highly immersive, ultra-realistic 4K animation brief. Seriously, if you've ever wondered exactly what goes into crafting those absolutely unforgettable premium intros you see on massive streaming platforms, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down the actual source material outlining the visual identity for Akundayo TV. It's basically a masterclass in mood, lighting, sound, and kinetic energy, all condensed into just a few perfectly calculated seconds. We're going to look at the anatomy of this sequence step by step, just so we can visualize exactly how a brand creates an instant, powerful, emotional connection with an audience before a single word of actual programming is even spoken. Where legends rise. Man, just let the weight of that phrase sink in for a second. This tagline isn't just a catchy grouping of words. It's the ultimate destination of the cinematic journey we're about to break down. Everything in the animation brief we're studying today is entirely engineered to earn this specific final moment. It's a promise to the viewer, right? A promise that what they're about to watch is going to be epic in scale. By starting our analysis with the ending in mind, we can really start to understand how every single visual and auditory choice is purposefully designed to make the audience believe that they are indeed watching legends rise. Okay, so that brings us to section 1, the cinematic vision, blending worlds. Now, what's truly fascinating here is the specific aesthetic fusion this brief demands to achieve that really premium Netflix-style branding experience. On one side, we've got the scale and polish of a Hollywood adventure franchise. Think massive, sweeping environments, dramatic lighting, and really high-octane visual effects. But then, on the other side, we have the profound depth of African mythology. This brings in a deeply dark, mysterious atmosphere that's just rich with cultural resonance, ancient history, and spiritual energy. So the crucial point here is that by fusing these two very distinct themes together, the designers are creating an aesthetic that is incredibly unique. It establishes absolute authority from the very first frame. It totally avoids that standard sterile corporate logo reveal and instead delivers something legendary, mysterious, and powerfully grounded in a specific cultural identity. Let's move right along into section 2, forging the atmosphere, out of the darkness. Okay, I want you to imagine a pure, absolute black screen. This animation doesn't start with a flashy bang, it actually starts with a void. Slowly, this deep fog starts to roll in. It's literally forcing the viewer to lean in and look closer at the screen, setting up an incredibly mysterious tone right out of the gate. And to achieve that lean-in effect, the brief relies on specific sensory suspense builders. Because let's be real, visuals alone just aren't enough, you absolutely need that audio-visual synergy. So we have the pure black screen and the deep fog setting our canvas. Then the visual contrast of floating golden particles emerges, adding depth and just a hint of magic to the scene. But notice the audio cues here, deep bass rumbles and metallic echoes. If you've ever been in a movie theater, you know for a fact that deep bass isn't just heard, it's felt right in your chest. And those metallic echoes bouncing around the audio landscape, they build a massive sense of scale, basically tricking your brain into thinking this entire sequence is taking place in some giant cavernous space. It's just pure epic trailer suspense. So let's look at how this builds structurally through the progression of motion. First, as we just covered, the deep fog and particles emerge. Second, ancient glowing symbols and mystical runes appear. They're rotating gently in the air with these cinematic energy pulses moving between them. Then third, the suspense hits a tipping point, and those symbols suddenly collapse inward. And finally, step 4, a powerful golden burst is released. Now, throughout this entire 4-step progression, the camera is slowly pushing forward through the fog. This camera movement is absolutely essential because it makes the viewer an active participant. It's physically pushing them deeper and deeper into the mystery right up until the climax. And that brings us to section 3, the energy climax, the kinetic shift. This right here is the turning point of the entire animation. That slow, mysterious buildup we just talked about, it is suddenly shattered. The exact moment those ancient glowing symbols collapse inward, the vocal and visual energy of the piece completely transforms. We go from a slow, creeping suspense to an absolute explosion of kinetic energy. We're talking about a powerful golden energy burst with smoke waves and glowing sparks spreading across the screen. This sudden kinetic explosion is the big payoff, and the brief is incredibly specific here. It's not just a flat flash of light. No, it has real physical properties. Smoke waves push outward, glowing sparks fly across the screen, giving the energy burst a tangible, almost aggressive presence. It violently shifts the intro from quiet atmospheric suspense to massive undeniable revelation. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Anatomy of the Logo, Designing the Reveal. So everything has been leading up to the center of that golden energy burst. This is where the actual brand identity finally takes shape, and it's doing so in a dramatic 16:9 aspect ratio, ensuring it fills the screen exactly the way a blockbuster movie does. The framing is wide, it's cinematic, and it's designed to make the subject look larger than life. Let's focus on the actual textures requested for the brand name itself. From the center of the energy, a massive metallic Ikun TV forms dramatically. Pay close attention to those specific design descriptors: massive, metallic, glowing golden cracks, floating embers. The designers are intentionally giving the brand a really heavy physical presence. It's not a flat 2D graphic. It's a 3D object forged in fire and energy. Those glowing golden cracks suggest that the power inside this brand is so intense that it's literally bursting through its metallic shell. And the floating embers surrounding it keep the scene feeling alive and dynamic, even as the main logo settles into its final place. To elevate this even further, the brief calls for dramatic, volumetric lighting. Now, for those unfamiliar, volumetric lighting is a 3D graphics technique that creates visible, cinematic beams of light. Think of light rays shining through a dusty room or cutting through deep fog in a forest. By combining these cinematic light rays with deep cinematic shadows, the Ikun TV logo achieves that really dramatic, high-budget contrast. The light actually interacts with the deep fog we established back in Step 1, creating an ultra-realistic environment that a simple 2D lighting effect could just never accomplish. Finally, we reach Section 5, a legendary conclusion: lingering in the dark. So the explosion has happened, the logo has been revealed, but a premium intro doesn't just abruptly cut to black, right? It needs to breathe. It needs to leave an afterimage in the viewer's mind. So we slow the narration and the animation way down to prepare for the final, lingering moments of this cinematic composition. Let's look at the anatomy of this final frame. The chaotic energy from the explosion settles. The smooth camera motion comes to a very gentle rest. The tagline we discussed at the very beginning, "Where Legends Rise," slowly fades in beneath the massive logo. And most importantly, we have these slow-motion particles drifting in the darkness. This contrast is absolutely vital. We went from a violent, golden energy burst back down to a quiet, mysterious calm. It frames the brand identity beautifully and leaves a really lasting, sophisticated impression as the entire sequence fades out. So, I want to leave you with this question today. How does a 10-second cinematic intro set the stage for the stories you want to tell? We've just seen how a few seconds of pure black screens, deep bass rumbles, volumetric lighting, and a fusion of Hollywood scale with African mythology can completely dictate the psychological state of an audience. It establishes authority, mystery, and premium quality instantly. When you think about your own branding or even just the media you consume, consider the immense impact of atmosphere, sound, and lighting. It's never just a logo. It is the prologue to the legend. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this breakdown has given you a whole new lens through which to view visual storytelling.